It's now time for the Morning Watch with Stokeley Marshall.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning show, The Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to all listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-2801, 712-832-801. 001. I'll say that again. 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the first watch today. How should or can school suspensions and detentions be managed? And in second watch, 40 in inverted commas, and the inaugural Grand Slam track meet. So the second watch will be essentially broken down in two parts. The first will be 40, and the second part of the second watch will be the inaugural Grand Slam track meet. And for our social media question, we ask, are school suspensions and detentions ineffective today? Are school suspensions and detentions ineffective today? Share your responses in our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your response to the program, but first is I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, when you're not for sure, be still. And this one is from CC Winans.
You know, I was trying to locate where she said this. I see she has a song with some similar words. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you might happen to know.
No, I'm not sure.
I was wondering if I didn't say those exact words in the song. With similar words.
Maybe if you say it on a podcast or interview.
I'm wondering about when she might have uttered those words. Good morning, Jacal.
Good morning.
The first watch. We'll be back after this break.
On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll be focusing on financial management. Financial management is the business function concerned with planning, sourcing, deploying, and controlling financial resources to ensure profitability and financial security. It encompasses managing cash flow, investments, and liabilities, ultimately aiming to maximize value for the organization. You are invited to join the conversation as we speak with financial advisor, Mr. Floyd Wilson. The Mailbox is brought to you by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited. That's Wednesday, April 2 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101. The Mailbox, Monday.
I've got you in my heart. Get ready to lift your praise this Worship Wednesday, coming your way inside Alive 1 to 5, April 2, with wonder, worship, warmth, and spiritual wisdom. Mental Mavericks assemble for the brain testing Menticize at 1:45. At 2:15, we feature Rhoda Isabella as our worship artist of the day. At 3 p.m., Find out what's hot, what's new, what's next. Your scoop on entertainment, sports, and lifestyle. Stick and stay for more fun coming your way as Auntie Vashti wraps things up at 4:30 p.m. with the Small People Show. All this and more will come alive 1 to 5 this World of Worship Wednesday, April 2, where all is well with the creative Jesus guy, Darren Mitchell. Let the worship waves wash you over on the family station, Love 101. I've got no in my heart and I'm feeling blessed.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, and we get right into the first watch, the main watch. Now, in years gone by, being suspended from school, such as high school, being suspended was considered to be a big deal, a big issue. It would go on your record. It was considered to be something that didn't make the student look good. It was an embarrassment to the student and oftentimes to the parents as well. It was considered a great punishment tool, and there is also detention, which some schools still use, it is said. Do these types of punishment still work? If not, why not? And our guest this morning to have a discussion about this, Jonathan Atkins. Jonathan Atkins is a member of the Jamaican Youth Advocacy Network. And we have Dr. Mark Smith, president of the JTA, the Jamaica Teachers Association. Dr. Smith, Jonathan Atkins, good morning.
Good morning.
Starting with Dr. Mark Smith, I would like to start with this, sir. Are those forms of disciplining, how do they square today? Is it that students, when they are given detention or suspension, for them it's just a break from class, and they can, if it's maybe suspension from the school itself, it's considered a vacation? How do students react to these kinds of punishments today?
Morning. Thank you so much for having me on. Of course, morning to your audience. The truth is, it depends on the student. A lot depends on the school culture. There are schools where suspension, detention are considered, something that's a very effective means of actually implementing some type of behavioral reform for students. However, we find in many cases it is not effective. All right, and I'll use, for instance, my experience as principal of Monroe College. Suspensions are tied to, your ability to graduate from the school, or I shouldn't say graduate. Let me just clarify that. To be a part of our valedictory service, because they're high school students, they're not really graduating, right? And so, to be a part of our valedictory service, a requirement is that you're not involved in any suspension within your senior year. And believe you me, the boys monitor each other. We have virtually no, serious infractions by students in that final year, and they'll talk about it, right? There's an appeal process. So even in the event where a handful of students throughout the year may have breached the rules in some way, you find that the students may lobby to have that rescinded. However, one has to look at the school context. And in many instances, we see where schools are inherently struggling with how to manage student behavior. Now, I don't think suspensions or even a detention system should be the first line of engagement when trying to address maladaptive behavior. There's a whole process. In fact, when you look at suspensions, it is really it should be one of the last options. And so you would have to have gone through a series of attempts to engage a student in changing the unwanted behavior before applying what one can, what I think honestly called punitive punishment. But it must be understood that there are a variety of behaviors that might result in a school administrator or the school itself taking that type of action. And critical among them is a student being at a risk to themselves or another student or member of staff. Sometimes we oversimplify it, and I wouldn't like to think that any student uses suspension, in a very haphazard way. It is used really when you have exhausted all the other options that are available to you, or if the infraction is of such that it warrants an immediate removal from the school community. And we have to understand the context. We live in one of the most, unfortunately, it's very difficult for me as a Jamaican to say this, but a very violent society. Yeah, we perpetuate a lot of acts that are, one can only say, horrifying sometimes, between stabbings, serious threats of violence, with weapons sometimes are threatened, gangs in some of our schools. We can't simplify this to say the child must always be at the school. No, we must look at it as a broad toolkit. Sometimes we're going to use a tweezer, sometimes we have to use a sledgehammer. And so, within that discussion, one can then start to argue whether or not in a particular case it was properly used. But certainly, it remains one of the very important tools that a principal or a school has. I'll add to that we must remember there are cases in which one child threatens another child or several other children. We cannot run the risk of that child carrying out that act, because believe you me, the principal and the school would come under significant pressure, especially if they knew that a child was a risk to the other students. So putting it broad, and we don't want that to be used as the only option, but it still should remain as an option to help to manage student behavior.
And before we bring in Jonathan Atkins, who is a member of the Jamaican Youth Advocacy Network, Dr. Smith, is suspension the second highest form of punishment available to a school administration? In other words, expulsion perhaps being the highest?
Yes, that is quite right. So expulsion is, of course, the highest disciplinary action that they can take, going up to 10 days by the principal. The board also will have to rule. So a principal cannot expel a child. It has to go to the board of governors, and usually a recommendation made to the personnel committee, and the personnel committee would carry out that particular action as to review the case before them. And they can give an additional 5 days if necessary. But so in essence, that remains the ultimate form of act, or the last action a school can take, which is to separate the child. And I'll tell you something, as an educator with about 25 years, sometimes they need a change of environment. Now, in my practice, I've tried not to go down the route of expulsion, usually working with other principals to see if we can have the child transferred to another institution. And in instances we have seen, we have understanding oftentimes, especially principals within the space that I work, that I've taken a child that they're having difficulty with, they have taken a child that I've had difficulty with, and we have found that sometimes works. Not in all cases, but I would think that in some instances we have had a high degree of success in that regard.
Interesting. Jonathan Atkins, I know we're up on a break already, but any thoughts before we head to the break?
Well, I mean, what I would say is that the perspectives that Mr. Speaks are really good. But the problem is, however, that perspective is held by him, who I know personally to be the principal who cares about student welfare and its safety. One of the problems that we have is that's not a standard across the board, and many times it is left up to the capacity of the principal or even desire to want to achieve behavior change. And so while this perspective
Atkins, can you hold that thought for a second, because we are now on a break. A second thing too, I don't know if there's something you cannot do with your audio, because you sound a little bit muffled, and we would like to hear what you're saying very clearly. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Do more on the board. Discover a new and convenient way to send money abroad with GK1 app. Download GK1 from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to send with Western Union today. The time by Grace Kennedy Remittance is
7:15.
not that dog, not the hole.
Man, them do a good job with the house, though.
I can't complain, but just a look a little small now to wire it.
Go talk to C and WJ Credit Union. They have a house wiring loan of up to $150,000 to wire your house. See you can get power from JPS. That's right. Get up to $150,000 and 3 years to repay with the CWJ Credit Union house wiring loan. CWJ Credit Union. Discover the benefits of belonging.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years, whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal. Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together, because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
The 2025 Jamaica Gospel Star Competition's new entry deadline is April 15, 2025. We want you to enter. You're a seasoned performer or a new voice. This is your chance to showcase your talent and win over $1 million in cash and prizes. Only online entries will be accepted. Submit your entry at jcdcawards.platform.com. Deadline Tuesday, April 15. It's the Jamaica Gospel Star Competition 2025. Enter now.
Good morning, and we return to the first watch of the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are looking at the topic in this first watch: how should or can school suspensions and detentions be managed? Our guests are Jonathan Atkins, member, Jamaican Youth Advocacy Network, and Dr. Mark Smith, president of the Jamaica Teachers Association. In the first half of the first watch, we heard quite a bit from Dr. Smith explaining the nature of these punishments, suspensions, and detentions, and discussing even some nuances that are relevant depending on the relevant school. And Jonathan Atkins, you were weighing in on the question that I had asked, and that question was in relation to the forms of discipline, and is it that sometimes suspensions are considered a form of vacation or detentions being taken seriously? Same question that I had asked Dr. Mark Smith. Continue, Jonathan Atkins, and I'm hoping that we can hear you a little bit more clearly now, sir.
Well, are you hearing me better now?
Slightly, yes. I think it's a little bit improved.
Okay, so
yes.
my main point is that a large part the use of suspensions are up to the discretion of the principal, and I think, and not just the principal, because even though the Education Act, the regulations actually stipulate that suspension should be authorized by a principal, there are oftentimes where students are given suspensions that many times principals aren't even aware of. So that's one problem that we flag. But another problem that I have personally is that I've noticed that the use of disciplinary measures seem to not be backed by any real research about its effectiveness. So especially in a country like Jamaica, where, as Mr. Smith says, that very highly violent society, and many times these behaviors are actually are being mirrored in our schools. Many of our schools are very different. Schools in Jamaica, the behaviors at many of our traditional high schools differ significantly from that might obtain in many of our non-traditional high schools, especially those in vulnerable communities. And I'm not sure if there's been any significant research in terms of what are the effective methods that actually work if we need to actually achieve behavior change. Because it's one thing to manage the behaviors in our schools, but it's another thing to actually have students come into our schools and actually live changed, especially I bring up back those students that live in vulnerable communities or schools that are located in vulnerable communities, or that have students who are more prone to violence and violent behaviors or exposed to violent behaviors. So that kind of research, I'm not necessarily sure, is guiding how principals, vice principals, views of disciplines are actually operating in terms of what are the behaviors, what are the practices that actually work. So, for instance, I've heard principals talk about in-house suspensions and how they have used the resources of the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Justice in terms of restorative justice resources being provided by the state. However, it seems as if only some principals have really like acted upon that, and there really has to be a question about the evaluation of how effective those things have been, or those practices have been, to see how it is that other schools can apply those best practices in the school. So what we find is that suspension, to be quite honest with you, has just been one of the traditional tools that have been used as a disciplinary measure. And it almost seems to be the default setting. As students is being disruptive in a school, okay, we'll suspend you. And while we understand clearly there are some points where a student has to be suspended for the overall discipline of the school and the safety of other students, because they were that right, the right of other students to enjoy the educational environment is always paramount. We really have to question, as a country, with these kind of behaviors in our schools, can we just continue to go by the default setting that there's no evidence that it seems to be working? So I think that is where we need to start from. What is working? What are the programs that have been working, and how can we get to know whether or not they're working or not? And are we measuring them and sharing those best practices?
Okay.
If I may,
before you jump in, Dr. Smith, I wanted quickly, for the benefit of the listeners, I'm hearing the term restorative justice being used a couple of times, certainly when you were speaking, Mr. Atkins. Restorative justice, and this is actually an AI overview, anyone can go on Google and find this, focuses on repairing the harm caused by crime, emphasizing accountability for offenders, and allowing victims and communities to participate in the resolution process, rather than solely focusing on punishment. So, Mr. Atkins, even if we go the route of restorative justice, applying it to a school setting, it does not exclude punishment. So you seem to be indicating, well, sort of offhand saying, well, in a backhanded sort of way, well, we tend to resort to the traditional things of, suspensions and detentions. So what is it that you're really advocating for? Because you're from the Jamaica Youth Advocacy Network.
Well, we're not advocating for the exclusion of punishment. To be quite, if you're being really ourselves.
Well, if you look at the traditional methods as being maybe not appropriate, what exactly are you advocating for?
Well, I mean, not just easy that it's not appropriate. If we're being real with ourselves, suspension only affects students.
So what exactly are you advocating for? We have heard you on suspensions and detentions. What are you advocating for? What should be done instead?
Well, I just literally give some examples. So when it is that we start with restorative justice, it's not that students are not punished.
Restorative justice does not exclude punishment. So what punishment would you substitute for the detention and the suspension?
Well, I didn't say that we will substitute detention, because I do think detentions are meaningful. There are meaningful punishments, because they're not taking students outside of the school environment, and in that moment is a captive audience of a student that needs to be reformed. So you would
advocate for keeping the detentions.
Yes, we definitely believe that.
So what of the suspension that should be abolished?
I don't believe suspension should be abolished. As I said before, I think there are moments in time where I think it is important, not because it's a punitive tool, but because we're removing students who need to be removed for the general safety of students. Okay. And I think that there is where I think there is value in it. And as Mr. Smith brought before, there's a right balancing act that needs to be approached when we talk about suspension. Is it a valuable punishment? Well, I can understand it being a valuable punishment in certain settings. As I said before, if we had research to show the kind of students who would be impacted by these kind of punishments, I think that would actually give us a little bit more instruction about whether or not
only because of time, I'll ask to pause, because you've essentially said that already. Dr. Smith, you are coming in, sir.
Right. I want to just contextualize this by saying that the Ministry of Education, to its credit, has been pushing the concept of school-wide positive behavioral intervention support models, and most of our schools, if not all, our government schools have embraced that in some form or the other. No one can argue about the efficiency and effectiveness of the various permutations. Some schools talk about massive improvements, others marginal. I don't think any school really say it doesn't work at all, but there is very little change in behavior. a lot of the challenges that we face are often out of frustration that you will find schools removing students. We're talking about children who may suffer from serious maladaptive behavior. I'll never forget the time I got a letter from a psychiatrist, which said, because what I often do is to send students off to get them evaluated so we know what we're dealing with. And I remember a student come back to say has authority oppositional disorder. No, back in my day, that would be not listening to the teacher. Yeah, you want to do whatever it is that you want to do. And we would have tried several other means. In fact, one of the things we normally try is to take them, because we find when you give them responsibilities, so you take them and you place them. We work with primary schools and we'll take them there, and we try to have them as almost like an assistant to a teacher for 2-3 days and bring them back into the school. So there are things that are tried. I do believe that we still need to keep suspension, expulsion on the books, because there are serious cases that will include things like rape, things like molestation, things like whatever it's called, extortion. Extortion is a big one within the schools. A lot of these are behaviors these children pick up. That being said, it should not be limited to punitive forms of punishment. So I agree with the colleague in that regard. But we have to understand that school really should be about teaching and learning. Of course, we're talking about character development and all things, and so there needs to be emphasis placed.
Dr. Smith, you didn't say retained detentions. Are you saying retained detentions as well?
Oh, yes, certainly. In some schools, detention works. We have had varying success with it. In some other schools in which the students, the short periods, are usually doing them within the school day or after school. Some kids it doesn't really matter for them. So again, school culture, I find, has a lot to do with it, and being able to change the mindset and how they perceive it. So a lot has to be done in that regard. And there's research that actually indicates that students who go on suspensions, can sometimes see in the long term higher propensity to engage in drug use, crime. But you have to balance that out with the fact that that child, whether or not they were suspended, would have been at high risk to that because of home-related environments, communities that oftentimes the lack of parental supervision, so irrespective of which socioeconomic group they're in, but the lack of adequate parental supervision. And to my parents, many of them are frustrated. I can't count how many parents I would have met that really they're at their wits' end. They've been talking to the child is failing to comply. Again, restorative justice, I embrace that concept, but within a school, context, with oftentimes only 2 counselors dealing with a myriad of issues, within the context of the fact that we don't have enough social workers. So, you don't have the people power to do that.
Dr. Smith, Dr. Smith, I know there tends to be a focus on more secularized interventions, guidance counseling, and social workers, but any spiritual intervention to your knowledge?
Yes, we model that at Monroe, and I know other schools do, where we invite in, for instance, your chaplain to do sessions with the students. Of course, we try to do mentoring, peer mentoring and support for the students. That's a big thing, having a robust culture that supports compliance with rules, because we have to remember, we're creating the next generation of citizens, leaders within the society. And if you have a case where they don't follow rules, they think that there are no consequences, and there's a neoliberal, like the fact they talk about secularism, there's a neoliberal perspective on education, that we have to be careful about, that simply says that people just do the right thing inherently, when, the Bible will tell you that people are born in sin and shaped in iniquity. And so there is a need for us to do interventions.
Yes. So I have a last question here. I don't know if we'll have the time for you to even give the answer, but is there a push by any particular, in terms of any particular philosophy, ideology, or sorts of even institutions that are trying to, in a subtle way, say to you that you should stop disciplining children in schools, Dr. Smith? Or is that not really happening?
I don't know if it's necessarily characterized as a philosophy, but definitely there is some ideas around, and oftentimes the people who articulate this cannot artfully explain what would be the alternative. Because that's where a lot of teachers, I can tell you, and administrators are frustrated when students come and are not willing to engage in the process. And school is really about, creating small communities of learners. And when you come and you're being disruptive, when you come and we have to take a teacher to walk with a child to the office, it's depriving the other children to time learning. And so it's constantly a balancing act between what is good for the whole and what is good for the individual. But we have to work with our parents.
We're completely out of time, Dr. Smith. I'm not surprised at your last answer, which is why I raised the question, because we do see. Well, I'll leave it there for the time being. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time and for your thoughts on the morning watch this morning. Never enough time, but thank you so much for your time this morning. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the morning watch.
The perfect account in the Jamaica Bank Savings Streams promotion and enabling you for a chance to win an all expenses paid trip to Peru. And you know, the time by JM Bank Savings Streams promotion is
7:31.
Newborn Outreach Ministries International presents its 3 to 5 Royal Street, Kingston, beside the craft shop. Adults 6,000, children 8 years and up 4,000. It is free. It's like music mart and source of life. Tastes and surprises, music and secured parking and dinner included. Call 876-871-1810 or 496-0436. Free as Monday, Monday, April 21. Doors open 2 p.m. Sale at 3 p.m.
Jamaica's gangs are like packs of rats. They live in filth and try and drag us all in there with rats, spreading the disease of violence and corruption everywhere. But like a pack of rats, they can be eliminated rats with your help. If you have information on gangs, call Crime Stop on 311. This message is brought to you by Crime Stop and their marketing partners, Lime and MCB.
JUTC finally arrived in St. Mary. Well done, JUTC. The seats are very comfortable and it has Wi-Fi and AC. The ride was nice, the AC was nice. I love the ride, I will always look out for you.
Thank you for traveling me, and I will definitely look out for you the next time. Welcome to JTC on the 52B from Alpha Tree to Thomas River.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have in the Gleaner, the headline reads, Rejected. Committee halts Warmington's push. Committee halts Warmington's push for Portmore Parish boundaries in May voters list. In the Jamaica Observer, the headline here reads, or one of the headlines reads, Economy scales back on last quarter contraction. Starting reports 0.8% decline for October to December. And in Loop Jamaica News, we have here, Clark defends water contamination claims. JLP calls it political propaganda. Those and many other stories in our various news sources. Coming up next, we'll read for some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, are school suspensions and detentions ineffective today? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube. Love 1FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes too. 876-9973-125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Life can feel overwhelming at times, but you don't have to face it alone. The Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church is here to support you with our caring and confidential telephone counseling service. Whatever you're going through, grief, stress, family challenges, or just feeling stuck, our trained counselors are ready to listen, pray, and guide you toward hope and healing. Take the first step today. Call us at 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Help is available through the Prayer and Counseling Ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Remember, help is just a phone call away. That's 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Call in now and let us walk this journey with you.
Happy, cause you pop straight.
On the next episode of The Mailbox, we'll be focusing on financial management. Financial management is the business function concerned with planning, sourcing, deploying, and controlling financial resources to ensure profitability and financial security. It encompasses managing cash flow, investments, and liabilities, ultimately aiming to maximize value for the organization. You are invited to join the conversation as we speak with financial advisor, Mr. Floyd Wilson. The Mailbox is brought to you by Solid PVC Pipes, manufactured in Jamaica by Fosrich Company Limited. That's Wednesday, April 2 at 5:30 p.m. only on the family station, Love 101. The Mailbox, Monday.
Hey, small people crew, it's me, Auntie Vashti, and I have some wisdom to share with you. Join me every discussion Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. on the Small People Show, where little voices make big sounds. Inside Discussion Wednesdays, we have meaningful discussion about life skills, safety, self-awareness, and how to be the best version of you. Don't miss out. Tune in this and every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. with me, Auntie Vashti, only on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley. Marshall, now, Jakal, what are the responses, if any,
All right.
to our feedback question? Are school suspensions and detentions ineffective today?
All right. The first one is from Edna in Montego Bay. Edna, let me hear from you.
Good morning, Love 101 listeners. I think suspension now is not effective as it was before because we are dealing in a different generation, and I think the boys is the one that don't even care much about getting suspension from school. I think the girl will take it more serious, the girls, yes, and I think suspension really affect parents more than the children them, because sometimes the boys don't want to go and do their own things, and some of them want a break from school and they will do things just to get suspension from school, yes.
All right, that one was from Edna in Montego Bay. Let's hear from Cherry in Spanish. Cherry says, for some students, suspension, detention, or expulsion might be enough, as well as it seems like nothing to some. It goes back to say, what is the culture of the school? The school and parents need to let their children know if you breach a rule, there are consequences. It also goes back to the behavior of the child, and all has to be considered before giving suspension or detention, even expulsion, bearing in mind that we live in a violent society. Merlene from Clarendon says all types of punishments in schools are non-efficient. For some, pride doesn't live there. So, yeah.
Well, this is a very serious topic, that matter of punishment in schools and, how to rectify or address behavior. I think the better word is address behavior that is not in keeping with discipline and learning. Well, we move right into the second watch. And for the second watch, we'll be doing it in two parts. Up to the break, we'll be looking at the whole matter of Moses and the Israelites. Moses and the Israelites wandering in the desert as they flee oppression and head to the promised land, envisage Noah building his ark while facing ridicule from a community of naysayers, and consider Jesus in the wilderness fasting and praying and being tempted by the devil. Imagine all of that and more in a musical mix rendered with a modern day Jamaican twist. It's called 40 We will be interviewing Owen Blacker Ellis for that in just a few. And after that, after the break, we'll be looking at some sports. And right off the heels of Champs is an upcoming professional track and field league that was announced last year by American former Olympic champion sprinter Michael Johnson. The very first season will kick off this weekend in Kingston, Jamaica. It's anticipated to be another off-the-charts athletic event, and our guest for that will be Olive McNaughton, and director of Jamaica Sports 876. But we're going to start now with Owen Blacker Ellis, writer and producer of 40. Owen Blacker Ellis, are you on?
I am on, and I am wonderfully thankful to be here.
Yes, sir. Now tell us about 40. What is 40?
40 is a typical experience that gives you fun, fellowship, and merges the business of entertainment and enlightenment with evangelism. It's a theater piece, so you're gonna be entertained, you're gonna laugh, and it's gonna evoke emotion. But the real aim is to really use this piece of theater to challenge people to reflect on the meaning behind all the different ways we see the significance of 40 scripturally and in our own lives, and hopefully to pull people nearer to Christ.
40 days and 40 nights in the wilderness.
Indeed. And 40 years in some instances.
And 40 years in some instances.
Yeah.
Mr. Ellis, sir, where will 40 be and when exactly?
It will be at our sanctuary, Family Word and Worship Church at 6 Belmont Road, Kingston 5. And we have a special, it opens Wednesday, April 16th. We have a special show on that day, half-price show for students and children with ID. And then it opens officially, the gala opening is on Thursday, April 17th. So it's Wednesday at 6:30, April 16, Thursday, April 17 at 8 p.m., and then Friday and Saturday, 5:30 and 8:30 p.m. And it's all happening right there at 6 Belmont Road, Family Word and Worship Church.
Tickets?
Tickets are available at the church, and the tickets are 3,000 pre-sold and 3,500 at the door.
I see. And why come up with 40? Why?
Well, the idea of the play, the idea of looking at the significance of 40 has been something that I've been playing with for quite a long time now. I've written a few poems and a song that kind of looks at the significance of 40. And I had the idea, and then we said, what will we do for our Easter production? And we said, let me work on 40, extend it and extend it. And we have in our church, we can brag that we have in our church a holy Catholic. After all, our pastor is doing it, right, with an established Jamaican icon in entertainment. And we said we have singers, actors, dancers. It's directed by Brian Johnson, who is a theater arts teacher, who is winning medals at festival every single year. So let's use all our gifts and talents to entertain people, but also to really make a point that, hey, you can come to a play and leave fulfilled and uplifted. You can come and laugh, learn, and be lifted up. And that's the aim.
And the script, the characters, etc., are all biblically based.
All biblically based, but with a Jamaican twist.
With a Jamaican twist.
So you can imagine, because we don't give it away too much, imagine Noah building his art based on his instructions, and there's a woman vlogging, a vlogger we're going live, taunting him and asking him hard questions, and basically making fun of him. And they're like, you are the builder, I'm going to be the contractor, are you a madman? We know that people claim to be hearing from God. People think that they're mad. And that's what happened with Noah. And then there's Moses in the wilderness. Imagine the Israelites and Jamaicans who are miserable, who are complaining that they don't want more manna, they want KFC, and they want jerk chicken, and they want roast fish, and they want a manna. And you have to be dealing with that while just trying to keep them walking towards the promised land. So
we're out of time already, but is there a number or some kind of handle that you want to give us where people can go to get more information or call?
You can check our church. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we're on TikTok. Family Word and Worship Church. Family Word and Worship Church. Complete all the words, and you can get more
Family Word
and
Worship Church.
Yes.
I have to leave it there. Owen Blacker Elisa wants to ask you a little bit more about your own personal testimony, but alas, we're completely and totally out of time. Sir, thank you for being with us in the first half of the second watch this morning, sir.
My pleasure.
40. Looking forward to that. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the morning watch.
During the worship experience, Arise 2025 with the Hoppers, Easter Sunday, April 20, National Arena. The time is...
It's time to twist and win with Coca-Cola. Enter for a chance to win a magical travel experience. Carnival costumes, TVs, earbuds, and so much more. Entering is easy. Just purchase any Coca-Cola with a white cap. WhatsApp the code under the cap to 876-214-5756. And that's it. Visit us on Instagram at Wasinka Hub or Coca-Cola Jamaica for more information. It's time to twist and win with Coca-Cola.
Ladies and gentlemen, the last time I was in Mandeville was for realignment, where we couldn't have space for you guys. Well, we're coming back to that side. And this time it's the French Part New Testament Church of God for our express worship. April 5th, 2025. Admission is just 2008 pre-sold. I am looking forward to seeing the whole place packed inside and outside.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second half of the second watch now. And in this second half of the second watch, we'll be looking at the inaugural Grand Slam track meet. And for this, our guest is Olive McNaughton, Director of Jamaica Sports 876. And of course, coming off of the heels of boys and girls champs is this upcoming professional track and field league that was announced last year by American former Olympic champion sprinter Michael Johnson. And the very first season will kick off right here in Kingston, Jamaica. And it's anticipated to be another very thrilling athletic event. Olive McNaughton, are you with us?
Good morning to you, and good morning to your listeners in beautiful Jamaica.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here with you.
Excellent.
Yes, it's been a feast of track and field champs, 2025 last weekend, and now this weekend, as you said, the inaugural Grand Slam track league kicks off in Kingston, Jamaica. Michael Johnson was the conceptualizer, and we have a bag of international, local athletes competing in what is expected to be an exciting and track meet this weekend.
Interesting. And how might this meet be different from any other meet we have had or any other track and field event?
It's different, about this? Totally different. First of all, the athletes, what they call, you have racers and you have challengers. Each athlete will compete in 2 events. For example, a world record holder in the hurdle, Sidney McCacken Laverne, will be running the 400 hurdles as well as the 400 meters. And you have Rashawn Clark, also men, in the men's 400 and 400. So each athlete will compete in 2 events over the 3 days, April 4th and 5th in Kingston. Now, each athlete at the end of the weekend, depending on the points in the two events, will win a grand prize of 100,000 US dollars for that weekend. So not only will the Jamaican spectators, worldwide audience, be thrilled to see an exciting track and field, you also have the athletes benefiting from this rich prize money. Biggest prize money in track and field over the four slams. So it's different. It's a challenge. So you have 4 athletes who are racers. So you have an Oblique Civil or a Shane Clayton or a Kira Nugent as racers will compete with a Keem Blake or a Daniel Williams or a Rochelle or a Solomon or Nikisha Price the racer. So they will run against the challengers who are trying to break out. Our new one, Alana Reed, is running the 1-2, Kemba Nelson. So you have the more upcoming athletes who are challengers will be competing against the racers.
No, I don't want to necessarily say anything that will you might hear later on as we put a goat mouth on it, but to use a Jamaican term. But do you expect any challenges to be successful? Olive McNaught.
If any challenges to what, repeat?
Do you expect any challenges to be successful? Yes.
Of course, I expect. Well, Omar McLeod, for example, came up as a challenger. Omar McLeod is one of the few athletes, hurdlers, that are a sub 10 in the 100 and a sub 13 in the 100-meter hurdles. You have Orlando Bennett as well as a challenger in the 100 and the 100 hurdles. I expect these challengers to possibly win and beat the racers. Some of the challengers are good in their own right, and I expect them to beat the racers. Some of the racers.
So it's almost like a sort of boxing match.
It is going to be exciting competition because as an upcoming athlete, you certainly want to make sure that you can perform well, not only for the season, but you let people know that I am here also. Right?
Yes.
I'm expecting some good competition, excellent competition. You have some world record. You have Gabby Thomas running the long sprints because, again, it's different. You have long sprints, short sprints, long distance, middle distance. So you have a Gabby Thomas running against a Dina Asher Smith. And you know those are Jamaican heritage. A mother and father are Jamaican. Then in the 400 meters and the 2-4, imagine a 2-4 with a Matthew Hudson Smith. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
You were careful to make sure to say, in terms of, one of the athletes there, Gabby, that, Jamaican parents. So what is it about us being Jamaicans that makes us such fast runners?
Boy, it's the genes in us. It must be. It's something because even when you have a Donovan Bailey or Linford Christie, the Olympic champions that represented Jamaica, but have gone on to represent other countries and our Olympic champions. So, it's Jamaican genes. There's something there that makes us special, So
I have a somewhat political question to ask you, and forgive me. Michael Johnson, not a Jamaican. It's obviously, it's indicated that, his idea, I guess, yes. And the inaugural meet will be here, but then it's going to be going elsewhere as well, such as Florida, for instance.
Yes.
So why not just have all of it here? Since we since we seem to be the cradle, let me finish. Since we seem to be the cradle of all this greatness, why do we have to share it to the United States of America? Not because it's American.
It's American, and Noah Lyles was saying that why bother to have it in Kingston.
He said that. Yes, that is true. Yes, he did. Yes.
Noah Lyles is, so we want to, yes, Jamaica is the spring capital, but the meet was conceptualized by Michael Johnson. And you, of course, America, if they're trying to build their program as well.
Yeah.
So you want to ensure that the US also trying to build track and field in the US. So it is important for them to also grow leading up to the LA Olympics so that they can get that sort of visibility for track and field in the US.
Yeah,
So
I don't have a problem with it being in the US as well. I'm just thinking, since we are the cradle, I'm putting that out there. Since we are the cradle, why not?
US is the top. US is the top at all world champion. US is the top country. So I have no problem. Jamaica right now is a champs country, and right now the seats are not sold. So we're asking people to come out and join. Come out and let Jamaica, big up Jamaica, because Jamaicans cannot fill the stadium on 4 occasions. So let's.
Oh, I see. So what I think you're trying to say is we kind of want to do a join-up thing where we make sure to work along with other great countries as well. So we have one great event. Is that what you're saying?
It's great event. It's a Michael Johnson from the US. Of course, he would want to have it. We could not afford to have 4 slams to Jamaica, and it would not make sense because we want to bring the tourists to the first slam, and we want them to come back to Jamaica because we do want Jamaica to get that brand visibility on the new track. Yeah. So I'm saying to you, Michael Johnson is from the US, and I have no problem with him having the other 3 slams. So you build track and field in the other countries as well. In the US.
Interesting.
Known for track and field. US is a basketball or basketball, American football. So that they are looking to build the visibility of track and field in the US.
I just still find it interesting that they started here. They could have started somewhere else, but I think because we are the cradle. That is it. Our genes, right?
Yes. We're looking at some people to come out. Jamaica Sports has group bookings for schools, churches, events, organizations, federations. So you can come to jamsports876.com, Jam Sports, or WhatsApp us at 876-344-8000.
Go slow with the number, please. 876
6344
yes
8000 800. Or the website jamsports876.com. We're asking persons to come out, buy your tickets. We have a special offer for schools, buy 100, get 100 free. We also have a discount for regular grandstand, 10% off the online prices. Come out. Let's make Jamaica stand out. Let's fill the stadium. They have broadcast rights for Europe, Asia, all over the world. And so we want Jamaica to look good so we can say that we don't want it to look like West Indies cricket, where nobody's in the stand.
Jamaica, good long time Olive Norton, but I agree. You want people to come out. I understand.
We want people to come out in the stand so that it doesn't look like West Indies cricket or when the Jamaica team plays at Sabina Park where there's nobody in the stand.
Yes,
we want, because you're having broadcast. And let me tell you, if you see the step up, the cameras, the production is going to be nothing like we have seen before in Jamaica.
Understood.
The production is going to be up 100 first class production. The amount of containers, the cameras, the production. They have 100 people just coming to produce this event so that Jamaica, so that the world can see this world class Grand Slam track.
Any appearances by Usain Bolt? I know that he has had a loss in his family, but any appearances by Usain Bolt? I don't mean on the track, but maybe just in the, just.
Usain was not scheduled to be in the island, but as you know, his father's passed. Condolences to Usain and his family. But we expect to see a staffer, Antonio Watson.
Right.
We expect to see Olympians in the stand supporting this inaugural event.
Thank you for that information. Thank you very much, Olive McNaught. We're completely out of time before they kick us out of the studio this morning. Out of time. Thank you.
Blessings.
Great talking to you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Very interesting. Looking forward. And thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And of course, visit our YouTube channel and Facebook page and our TikTok at Love 101 FM Jamaica for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And of course, download our Love 101 app and stay connected to us, the family station, Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. Thanks to producer Kathy Gale and to our guests. Join me tomorrow as we look at other issues of the day. I am Stokeley Marshall, hanging back up in the morning with Chukal.
The Ministry of Health